incident was about to take place that would shake the foundations of the civilized world.
It is time to open your mind. Time to discover your divine self as we navigate this holographic matrix together. Strap in, Cosmic Family, as we slide through this wormhole of cosmic information together in search of the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
It's time to go inside the Matrix. With your host, Jimi Brent.
Okay, welcome once again to another edition of Inside the Matrix. And today we welcome back our special guest, Thomas Williams, for his monthly meeting with us and updates and giving us the insight on what's happening in the world. And a special shout out and welcome to the THI family. And Thomas, welcome back.
Hi, and thanks for having me on again.
Always great to have you here with us. As I was listening to the last edition of From Russia with Love, and I suggest that anybody who hasn't listened to that entire series, it's worth your while to go back and listen to it because there's so much information that Thomas has put down in those episodes. But from the last one, you were discussing the Black Sun. Now, yes. If you would please, give us the background on that and how it's related. I know it's a huge, deep subject, but just kind of get us started with that, if you would, please.
It's like the central hub, and then you've got it's the server, and then you've got all the routers coming off it, like in internet terms, and they are the hidden hand, part of what was the covens, which was the third layer down. The top two were kind of dealt with between 13, 14, 15, and certainly by 2016. And essentially these people, and in some cases not, create a structure or an order whereby all the minions, and there's many names of the minions. You can call it the CIA, the KGB, Mossad, every religion, New Age, you name it. They're all under the umbrella of the hidden hand of the Order of the Black Sun, particularly the Freemason groups and the Brotherhood groups and the fraternity groups. You can wrap in the cults of Ra. Is another one that's symbology of Egypt, but before Egypt was India, which is the Kalimar people who were then thrown out of India into Egypt, and then the Egypt was, of course, the pharaohs. Now, pharaoh means the great house, which then wraps in the zodiacs and the missing one, and then the houses of Egypt, formerly of India, then took over the houses of Europe with the ultimate goal of taking over America also. And they all come under the hidden hand. You could throw all kinds of other names in, Deep State and this, that and the other, Bilderbergs, Club of Rome, UN. They all operate under this umbrella. And that's essentially the gist of the Order of the Black Sun. Their modality is that life is an abomination and everything should be destroyed.
Wow. So in the meantime, though, they want to fully take advantage of everyone and everything they possibly can. They want to control everything. They want to manipulate everything, including all of us. And it seems to be, I guess, they must justify it as their compensation for having to be in this world. Is that the idea?
Well, you've got a number of religious groups, particularly Hebrew and the Jewish cult, which has nothing to do with the Jewish people. Again, they use countries and they use peoples and they use religions. They use anything to invert or distort. And and run a program, and it's kind of difficult for many people to grasp that some entities are inherently dark. And then, of course, going back to the Hebrew Jewish, they all talk about Armageddon. And these people or beings, as the case may be, think that they are the chosen ones and that all life will end bar them. These people have been wrapped into a program and don't realize exactly what they're saying. The whole manifesto was life is an abomination and we are the dark, and think that they're going to survive. Well, if you eliminate life, there is nothing left. They are an anti-life group. And a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people kind of struggle with the fact that where they base, I've just written a piece for next Thursday, where they base their own morals and standards and think everyone else is like that. And that is humanity's biggest mistake. There's some really heinous, not only beings, but heinous people on this planet who have bought into a program at a point of no return, and they've lost all sense of what is reality. So why, on the one hand, would this manifesto say life is an abomination and we all should return to the void? Do they think that they're going to survive?
Yeah, it just makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
It's the weirdest thing that they have this sort of dual belief system that contradicts itself.
Well, the problem is everyone's been lied to, and the biggest problem, there's no balance. A lot of people think you just wipe the dark out and everything's love and light, and let's all sing Kumbaya. No. The light is out of balance. There's an imbalance between dark and light, which is being corrected. And even the dark is imbalanced. Otherwise, they wouldn't be making manifestos and statements of that ilk, where all life has to be destroyed. It is the dark that has corrupted it. Why? Because they're out of balance also. Mm-hmm. And they have to come into balance, and we have to raise our light, and then we come together in some sort of a balance, 45-55. I've mentioned it many times in the show, and that works. 5% correction is manageable, whether you're 55% dark or 45% light or the opposite. It doesn't really matter that much. We can't eliminate the light as much, the dark, as much as people would like it, because it's like the jinns, or people will call them demons. The jinns are on every upbringing planet, designed to be there to show you the difference.
Right, because if you never saw the dark side, you wouldn't understand the benefit and the greatness of the light.
No, it's an easy path. The dark is an easy path. And too many of humanity, right through the eons, have always took the easy path. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not worked too well for us, has it? Look at the mess the world's in. We've got people saying religion solves this and alcohol solves that and drugs solves this. Well, why is the world in a mess? Mm-hmm. Clearly, it doesn't work. And we have to accept that. We have not helped ourselves. They've not helped us. The dark's not helped us either, but they're out of balance as well, remember. And the whole thing is one gigantic mess. And it's up to all of us to take responsibility for that.
Sure. Now, don't you think, it seems to me that the dark side, they probably figure it's going fairly well for them. I mean, they've had their way with the whole world for so long. They have all the money, they have the power, the influence. I mean, they've created all of these institutions and governments and religions and everything, which all basically funnel up and serve them. I'm sure that people like us are somewhat of a thorn in their side, but still, on the overall scheme of things, they must think that things are going fairly well for them, don't they?
Not no more.
No?
No, not no more. The tide's turned. It was turning from 2012.
Well, I like hearing that. That's what we need.
It's not hoping, it's playing out. We shouldn't have been here after 2012. That's a victory in and of itself that kind of gets too easily glossed over or passed over by people. Mm-hmm. We should not have been here. The fact that we are is a testament to a very few people who were willing to fight. And not only in this current timeline or time epoch, but going back millions of years. And, their whole structure, I've shown the document with the wheel within the wheel and the structure around it and the 9, 12 or 13 pyramids that support it. And then you've got the minions, most of which the people on the internet have never gone above 25% of that document. No matter which big name you come up with or which family you come up with, whether it be it Rothschilds, Pacers or Rockefellers, they're all in the bottom 25%. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them have no idea that they were not at the top of the tree. Never mind that they were in the bottom 25%. People talk about governments. Governments are about 0.5%.
Yeah. Well, they're just the paid front people, right?
No, they're stupid puppets. That's the reality. They're stupid puppets. And I don't necessarily mean that in a derogatory way. They're theatre people. That's all they are. Theatre. When's the last time you heard? I don't watch TV, or certainly those mainstream media clowns. Most of it comes out of Langley, Virginia, anyway. When have you actually heard a panel discuss or a politician discuss policies? Isn't that what they're supposed to be there? Politics discuss policies. No, they discuss drama.
Yeah. Now it's turned into this huge soap opera occupying everybody's attention.
It's Hollywood in DC. That's all it is.
Yeah,
it's a distraction game, an illusion, whilst they carry on with their bigger projects. And agency people, you're puppets as well. Deep state, you're puppets. Everywhere you go, Bilderbergers, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, they're all puppets. They're all harvesting agents. And now they've realised, or some of them have anyway, that, the top end group are no longer here and no longer have an influence. The second group are no longer here, although two of them are projecting into here, but not actually here.
Is that the parent group?
The parent group. Neither are having much effect, particularly the Red Queen. And then you go into the covens. Well, the covens got wiped out. Now you've still got coven members who are still playing games, and they're using a load of brotherhoods and fraternities and sisterhoods via witchcraft. And I don't care whether you think you're light or you think you're dark on witchcraft. Neither are useful to humanity. Neither. Both of them are using the dark to manipulate the magic.
Right, because anytime you're seeking to manipulate others, That's not a good thing. That's not free will. That's not freedom in any way, shape, or form. So,
we've got all kinds of people on the internet wrapped into the New Age, which was created by Blavatsky. The
Love and Light crew.
Added to by Steiner and Crowley. And there's elements in their message that people go, "Oh, that sounds really good." But they don't realize what they're wrapping themselves into. It's the phishing. It's the hook technology. It gets used time and time again. Why? Because people, the minute you start talking about, healing crystals, and who said that crystal was healing? What if Adolf Hitler or Pol Pot had that crystal before you? Do you not think that their energy is not coming through it? You don't know who had it before you. And there's a whole plethora and genre of New Age rubbish that people have been wrapped up in. Take the message. It's like religion. They tell you, you can be nice to this and do that, and what not to do. Well, why do you need the church to do that?
Exactly. I've always said that too.
Why do you need a book or a program to tell you how to be and not to be? It's inherited. It's inside of you.
I agree.
And therein lies the problem.
Yeah, we all have the truth within us. We just need to connect with it and connect with who we really are. I've always said that, and I've always felt like all of these systems that we have, people are unwilling to take responsibility for themselves. So they look for the prepackaged answers and something that they can just say, "Oh, yeah, that's what I believe because all these people believe it. Oh, it makes sense to me." And every religion, every philosophy always contains some elements of truth, but not in full. So you get sucked into a system which doesn't serve you, but for people that are unwilling to tap into their own self and their own wisdom, they give away their power to these other groups or belief systems. And so anytime we go outside of ourselves for spiritual understanding and answers, we're making a big mistake. We're giving away our power and we're buying into somebody else's control system.
Yeah, absolutely. I put a lot of stuff out and some people like it and some people don't. It's what resonates with you and at what frequency you're at.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you really want to learn the truth? Does their truth make any sense? Well, clearly it doesn't. Otherwise, we wouldn't have shows like this.
Right.
Everyone knows deep down this planet's not right. And it depends on the individual whether their frequency has risen enough to get over the masses' low-level vibrational thinking and frequency to then be above, like in an overview of what is going on. Well, clearly, we've been lied to on every level. That's become clear now. There is no conspiracy anymore. In fact, the conspiracy is what they're putting out.
Yeah.
Religion being the optimal one, because none of it makes sense. Talking snakes and bushes going on fire, and it boggles the mind that so many people would be wrapped into it.
Well, just the idea of a savior, that is such a big trap because, first of all, the only thing you need to be saved from at that level is yourself. So once you realize who you are, there's nothing to be saved from. And there's no one outside of you who needs to save you. The saving yourself just means, becoming in touch with who you are as a spiritual being. That's how you save yourself, because then at that point you have an understanding of what this is all about and what the world is all about. And from that perspective, you're able to discern what the heck is happening here, because it's not good in so many ways. We've been lied to, and you almost have to wipe once you get to that point of connecting with who you are and understanding who you are as a spiritual, powerful being. You need to almost wipe the slate clean and start over, because literally we've been lied to about everything from history to archaeology. I mean, you name any spiritual or scientific endeavor or area of study, we've been lied to about all of those things.
Yeah, that's why they call it researching.
Yeah, because we're researching to find something that makes sense, because so much of this doesn't out there. And we just want to shout from the rooftops and say, people, come on, take a look at all this. We can do better. We can do lots better. We don't have to accept this stuff. And if we're ever able to come to that understanding as a collective group of humans in a family, it's all over for the dark side. It's so simple and easy, but the concept is, but getting to that point, that's what we're working on.
You're researching for what you already know.
Yeah. There's nothing new. Nothing new, right?
No, technology's not new. Nothing's new. It's all a repeat and a copy. And essentially, by going into the self, you're reclaiming your own sovereignty. You don't need pieces of paper or certificates right. or whatever else to define sovereignty.
Or mechanical practices,
No.
Like if I don't do this every day, this ritual, this thing, then I'm slacking in my spiritual endeavors, and that's ridiculous. That's somebody else's game program that you're practicing.
Well, we focused recently. We've covered Russia. We've covered Israel or Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it, and we covered recently India and their gods and their Hinduism and Buddhism, and the Order of the Sun basically told you that they corrupted all of them. You only have to step back. You've got 1 billion Indian people all praying each day, and yet 7,000 of them are dying per day. To tell you something's not right there.
Yeah.
If being in touch with God, their God, works, why is 7,000 of them being sacrificed? Because that's the real term. 7,000 Indian people are being sacrificed per day.
And that's not even talking about the people in other countries.
No.
So, yeah, it's just crazy. And I know we keep repeating ourselves about personal responsibility, but that's what it boils down to. We all have to step up and take that, and look at our own situation. No, none of us are perfect. None of us claim to be. We're just trying to do the best we can, but we definitely have to get the right perspective on who we are and what's going on in the world. And there's just no other way that this is going to work out if we don't do that. Anyway, we're coming up on the break here, Thomas, so we're going to take a short pause here, and we'll be back in just a little bit. If anybody has any questions, feel free to pop it in the chat or give us a call. We'll be right back.
Your ambassador to the unknown and host of Inside the Matrix, Jimi Brent. Jimi Brent. Jimi Brent. Jimi Brent. Jimi Brent.
All right, welcome back to our second segment of the show, Inside the Matrix, today with Thomas Williams. And as always, we're having a very interesting discussion about things. And on the break, we're kind of talking about perspective. And one of the most important things, I feel, is that we need to look at what we're doing and what's going on in the world sort of from the outside in, kind of have that 10,000-mile perspective of looking at things kind of from the outside, because it's easy for us to be distracted in our everyday lives with all the drama and things that are taking place around us. But if we look at things from outside of ourselves, it's a little bit easier to kind of get the right perspective. What do you think, Thomas?
Yep, that comes with wisdom, the domain of the wise. To step out of, You know, people often get into arguments and it gets more and more heated. But if you step away from it, that A, there is no argument, and B, you see what is going on. You know, I gave an example in one of the shows. It was you're on the dance floor and two people start fighting, and then suddenly there's 5, 6, 7, and 8 fighting. Nobody knows who started what, when, where, and why. But if you're on the balcony, you see who started, and that's where you come at it. You know, I mentioned before. You know, does it matter if Trump is a pedo or not, or Pelosi is this or not, or Hillary is that or not? Does it affect your life? No, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. That's immersing yourself in it, and that's what politics and theatre is designed to do in this current time, is provide distractions. You know, we've had enough of it in the alt media with the ET clans, you know, spitting out old information that most of us who are interested in that topic knew back in the 80s or 90s, but certainly when the internet came out. They're not telling you anything new, they're just keeping you distracted. Oh, big exclusive, cosmic secret. Well, if it was such a secret, how come so many people know about it? You know, think, and this is our problem. We don't think enough. You know, everything is simple. Nature is simple. Why are we making everything so complex? Because it's a distraction. With distraction and drama, you lose the wisdom aspect, where you step back and you watch it all unfold. You know who's doing what, when, where, and why. If you're in the middle of it, you've got no chance. And too many people immerse. It's the same with the dark. The dance with the dark is they're there not for you to absorb the dark, but to observe the dark.
Yes.
Big difference.
Yes.
If you absorb yourself into it, then you become part of it. So then you can't see it because it is you and you are them. But the idea of jinns is you observe them and go, I'm not going to be that way.
Mm-hmm. We had a question from the chat. John Bryan posted up. He said, could Thomas elaborate on 2020 vision for the listeners, please?
I came up with this in 2015. It was one of the key times. There's a number of things I've put out ahead of time to give people a chance. People look but don't see. It's the same example of absorb or observe. People hear but don't listen. So I can say a lot of things in the show, and they are fairly packed, and people will skip bits and miss it or misinterpret it. Why? Because they're not listening. They're not tuned into the frequency. And as time has gone on, and we've overcome certain hurdles, which was 2016, the 4-year loop, which they tried to loop back time to 2012, which was being peddled by certain alt media non-personalities, I would describe them as, posting articles from a previous time and making it out it was now. That failed. CERN failed, which was another thing. And so we go into 2020 with the saying that's just come up recently, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Except the one-eyed man and the king had it all his eyes and life force poked out. And then what you're left with is 2020 vision, and people will see. Not look, they will see. the frequency will change sufficiently where people will be able to see it.
Mm-hmm. I think we're getting an inkling of that now, because more and more people are beginning to see, and that's very encouraging for all of us. And I think to your point, Thomas, I think what happens to a lot of us when we hear thoughts that they cause us to sort of jump into another thought pattern that will then just kind of drift off and start thinking about, or we'll drift off into an experience or a program or a trigger that we have somewhere in our subconscious, and we sort of tune out to what's going on, and then when that plays out, we jump back into listening again. So it's very easy for us to be, kind of taken off of our focus when we're listening to something, because we are definitely triggered by different things we hear, and it will cause us to kind of jump off into a different direction for a while.
Well, the problem is life here now has become external. Some people see if we get the trust funds out that we've won. Not really. The trust funds are low priority with what's really going on and the work behind the scenes. When people will say, if I do this, or if I get this job, I will become famous, or I will become this, or I'll get this certificate, or this degree, or this doctorate, or PhD, and all that stuff. It's all external. People's wealth, people's looks, all external. But the real wealth is inside of you. And that's where we have to change that. Everything has become inverted. We have to invert it back. So we have to unlearn the old ways and relearn a new way, and then adapt to it. And that's the key. Particularly on a frequency level, most of this planet is wrapped into the astral realm, which is why they're trapped in the solar plexus, which is why they tell you to go with the gut. No, don't go with the gut. That's keeping you in a trap. It's like when the New Age, where people don't realize what they're actually saying when they say, I'm going astral traveling. Well, that's a limitation program. That's another thing that's damaged humans about limitation. Oh, little me, I can't possibly do this, and I can't bilocate, or I can't heal people. Well, yes, you can. Everyone can. Or the sky is the limit. Says who? Everything's limitation. So when you learn self-guardianship, I've changed that term from mastery because I'm from Russia with Love, and you forge the sword, which I've explained in the show, you are then entering new fields of information and new fields of frequency where you can see, but not just look. You can hear, not just listen. And it's like, you have a row of shops, and there's books for the kindergarten, there's books for the junior school, books for high school, and books for college, and books for higher learning. Well, if you can't give a child the fifth saw, can you? Unless they match that frequency to see it or feel it. And this is how the metaphysical world works. People have heard me say the information comes to me. Why? Because I'm in a certain frequency and field that's opened the door to higher learning and higher knowledge. Well, that's far more beneficial than pieces of paper with numbers on and degrees and certificates and all the other rubbish that goes with it, or badges on the shoulder for killing people.
Yeah.
That concept to me is mind-boggling, that we would award people badges for killing people.
It's insanity.
When you take you immerse in it, and people are proud that their fathers, sons, and daughters, etc., are being in the military, and they've got this badge and that badge. But when you step back and go, but that was for killing people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we've lost perspective on so many things in life. Why don't we give badges to people who care for people?
Absolutely.
Or who save people?
Yeah. Well, that doesn't fit into the, black sun objective at all. We don't want to reward great people. We want to reward the order followers and the most efficient killers.
But that doesn't mean to say we have to go along with it blindly,
right?
Because that's what we're doing.
Right.
We're blindly just going along with it because we're not taking a step back and thinking, hang on a minute, those generals got those badges for killing people. And people go, oh, I never thought of it that way. Well, I'm looking for everyone to think of it that way. Take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
That's the overview again. And then you're going internal with it. Because the external is all illusion. We've seen all that. Whichever field you go into, all of it is illusion.
Mm-hmm.
Magic, magic words, spells, you name it. It's all there. Once you look and see.
Yeah, and what we're witnessing in our culture, in our society, is that the dark side always rewards people who are basically enforcing or propping up their systems. So if you go to one of their schools and you get one of their degrees, that's going to be of a benefit to you. And,
well, it's a blind following program.
Yeah.
You do realize on this planet now, we have no leaders. None.
Well, we need to become our own leaders.
we have to create them. Because if you think Trump and all these other people are leaders, you are badly mistaken. All of them are following orders and scripts. They're not leaders. None of them. Heads of state, heads of the military, heads of the agencies, heads of government. They're all followers. None of them are leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the people now have an opportunity to be that leader, preferably with your ego in balance. Leader is elevating everybody else above you, not below you.
Mm-hmm.
This is why the world's in a mess, because the one-eyed blind king is no longer there anymore to give orders.
I always think about when they say somebody is the acting, like say attorney general or something like that. He's the acting this or the acting that. And when I hear that, I automatically say to myself, well, you're all acting. You're all the acting this, the acting that, and it never changes. There's nothing beyond that. You don't, in politics and all the public life, the things that are, posted up in front of us, they're all acting on behalf of, this dark system. Yeah.
I'll see if I can find it. I covered that last week.
Mm-hmm.
About acting. One of the things we're going to have to do going forward is to learn etymology. What is the origin of the word? What is the meaning behind it? Because everything's changed. It flips. 50, 60 years ago, to be gay meant you were happy. Suddenly now it means you are like same-sex couples.
Yeah, right.
And this is how they twist it. And they do it in translations between Hebrew and Latin and subsequently English, and then it gets changed again with American English. Like we've got center spelled R-E at the end, and here it's E-R.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly but surely you don't realize that suddenly this has changed, and it only takes two generations to change a whole narrative. You know, the classic example of that is the Aryans. Now, every Aryan, meaning every white person, is a white supremacist. But that goes back to the Hitler story.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was designed to do. It's reverse psychology. And they've reversed it. Like I said before, they've inverted everything. Like the mirror, it's inverted.
Mm-hmm.
And corrupted.
It's interesting how words, just like you said, it can have double meanings and things are twisted around. For instance, in the legal system, if you're standing in front of a judge and he says, "Do you understand?" Well, if you say yes, you've just told the judge that I stand under you.
Yeah.
That's the legal meaning of it. You're thinking, "Do I comprehend?" And that you're thinking that's what he's asking you. But in fact, what he's really asking you is, do you stand under my authority? And when you say, yes, I understand, you're not saying, yes, I comprehend what you're saying. You're saying, yes, I will stand under your authority. That's just one example. Let's talk about when we get up and go to work or go wherever we go during the day and we say, good morning.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what does the word morning mean? You know, there's double meaning there. Are we mourning as if someone has passed? You know, are we wishing them good morning in the system?
Because the darkness has gone and the light has shone.
Mm-hmm.
It's them who are mourning, not us.
Exactly. But your point is well taken, though. There are so many words that have been twisted around, generally 180, you know, and if the crazies in politics are talking, most times you can turn it around just the opposite and you'll get closer to the truth.
It says in the etymology of court-martial. Court-martial means the one who acts as a marshal at court. Acts as. Mm-hmm. Not is a marshal. No, acts as a marshal. It's all in the words. And this is something, you know, we're going to have to not educate children, because educate means training of animals. Oops. We need to teach children. But first we have to unlearn the spell, because we're all under a spell with this magic and illusion.
Mm-hmm.
We have to unlearn the spell and then relearn and teach, not educate.
Yes, and we have to teach children how to think, and how to analyze and think for themselves, and not to just regurgitate and what they've been told and memorize facts and figures. And that's kind of what we have in this Prussian school system.
Well, teaching is no different to the priest. It's all the same class. You know, the Cohens and the Khans, they're all called the priest class, the same as the Druids, the same as the Egyptian priest class, the Pharisees and all that stuff. It's all the same people. where they stand there and they regurgitate something and the people copy it and repeat it back.
Mm-hmm.
That's not learning.
No, it's not.
It's not learning. It's copy and repeat. It's like the mainstream media with CIA scripts. They're just copy and repeating what Langley's telling them to say.
Operation Mockingbird.
There's no insight. You know, there's no critical thinking. This is why they want you to just copy and repeat like a bot. Well, we've had enough of being bots.
Well, I like to remind people, if they want to understand how the media works, Go back
media.
and research Edward Bernays and his book on propaganda. And
Propaganda.
if you understand how, for instance, one of the things they did in the 60s to get women to smoke because they wanted to advance their group of people they could sell to, their client base or their sales base, they started, using women in movies, showing them smoking, and getting doctors to do the same and expand their base. And then another one that he did was creating the whole breakfast syndrome, which involved, all this heavy food in the morning and saying that that's the typical American breakfast. Well, that was just a program, and it was to help the egg industry sell more scrambled eggs and fried eggs or whatever. But they created that entire thought form that to have the great American breakfast, it included these ingredients. That's programming, and that's propaganda, and that's Edward Bernays wrote the book on that. I know it's been done throughout the ages, but his book really lays it out there. So if anybody's really interested in how programming is accomplished through the medias, you can read his book on propaganda, and you will see it everywhere after that. You'll see it literally.
Yeah, propaganda.
Yeah, that's perfect. Again, the etymology.
It's pro-pagan skin. That's what that means. Langley, the CIA, was spending $1 billion American dollars in 1970 on propaganda. With 400 of their staff in the mainstream media. That was
all
then.
Right. Hold that thought, Thomas. We're going to take another break right here. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Stick around with us. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're with Thomas Williams once again today, and we're just chipping away at some really great topics. On the break, we were talking about fake names. Before we were talking about how our language has been corrupted and switched around in so many ways, but there's a lot of fakers out there, especially in the political realm. They don't even use their real names. And Thomas, what do you think the purpose of that is? Just to obfuscate their past or connections?
Yeah, because with the alt media, and this is a testimony to the alt media, we've pushed them into corners where people are now starting to investigate. And suddenly those dots are being connected a lot more. I would like it to be a lot more like our show, where we've connected so many dots now.
That's true.
And people move away from the politic, double parasite, polymute.
Right, yeah, many bloodsuckers.
Yeah, and the QAnon thing, was useful initially for that, is to get people to think by puzzles. But they're still in the same program of Trump's doing this, Comey's doing that, Rosenstein said this, and on it goes. When the reality is, and I've done this many a time in the shows, what is next? Let's say tomorrow that they arrest every single politician, including Trump, because they've all done something wrong. They have to be in that position. And if they haven't done something, they'll coerce you into doing something. So they always have something on you. That's how it works. That's how their system works.
Sure. What
happens next? And this is where people lack thinking skills. Where are the American people going to step into those 540 odd roles and run things in a better way? Or are we just going to allow them to play switcheroo and bring the likes of Bolton back in, Giuliani back in, Haspel back in? Why are we still employing these people? Because we haven't stepped up. We can all cry about these appointments, that it's new boss, same as the old boss. Well, you've got to do something different to change that. And that means people who are not corrupt and have a conviction that they will not be corruptible, then going into those roles and slowly making a change. Set the example.
Do you feel like we have any people in those roles now that are trustworthy at all? Do we have any? Do we even have 5 or 2 or 1?
There are some that are helping. Are they 100% clean? No. Is anyone really 100% clean? No. And it goes back to the saying in the 100 series, where are all the good guys? And the answer was, there are none. And people go, well, this one's good. No. What it's telling you is you may be good now, but then you step into that role and become just like one of them. So then you've gone from good guy to being bad guy. And the key is creating hundreds, if not thousands, and then millions of good guys who are not going to be corrupted by power, by wealth, and by status and all that rubbish. All of it external, when your real wealth is internal.
And to me, that's the thing, like we were talking about in the first segment of the show, is becoming who you are, becoming that authentic spirit being. That's when you have the perspective that's not corruptible. And I see that to your point, a lot of these politicians, they may have good intentions going in. When they get in Congress, they get in the Senate, or whether it's on a state level or a national level, they have good intentions going in. But once they get in there, they have the little visit from somebody or some group, and they say, well, this is the way things work. So you either get on board with the plan, you're going to make lots of money, we're going to give you all the insider trading tips that you need, you're going to be a wealthy person, you're going to lead the country club life as long as you live, and you're going to be cushy and happy, it's going to be awesome. Or you can try and buck the system, and we will just push you down and squash you like a bug. So your choice. And I think that's very similar to exactly what happens in those positions.
Well, of course, the other aspect of that is why they change names, is so you cannot connect the incestuous nature of the so-called authorities, how all interconnected they are. The Rothschilds have been spreading their demon spawn everywhere. So the Rockefellers. We've got 2, Clinton and both the Clintons. One's Rothschild, one's Rockefeller. Did anybody know? No. Or too few know. And it's the same pattern plays out on all levels, where they'll use the same program. They'll pull people in. The royals, what our members will know this, but maybe some of yours won't. All the male royals throughout the ages have slept with prostitutes from varying regions of the planet, where they produce babies who then go back to that region and then rise to the prime minister, head of state, head of this corporation, head of this conglomerate, etc., etc. And that's gone on for even more modern history for the last 1,000 years.
Oh, yeah. And have you ever seen that picture of Theresa May and Merkel? And there was another one. And they're all friends as teenagers. And they became heads of state.
Yeah, because they've been born into that family. And then they become part of brotherhoods and sisterhoods and fraternities. And they all look after each other. It's the same in the UK. Tony Blair and Corbyn is the latest people, although I'm people are now starting to see through him. Both of them are from the Fabian Society. Tony Blair worked for MI6. You know, these people are not random. You know, Trump's not random. You know, but give the man his due. He's trying on some levels. I think he needs to try a bit harder, but that's my opinion. You know, but they're all interconnected. Look at Merkel. If certain knowledge is correct, she's the daughter of Hitler.
Yep.
You know, and From Russia with Love has showed you that all the stages of the interconnectedness of everything. And then you've got the Freemasons. They all get jobs for each other. The Better Business Bureau is run by the Freemasons. So if you're out of work as a Freemason, you go to there and they will give you work.
Mm-hmm. Well, wouldn't it be great if those of us who are trying to stand up for the truth and a moral compass in our world cooperated with each other in the same way? What a concept.
Yeah, well, the key is to elevate each other, not drag each other down.
Yeah, and that the dark side does that all the time. You know, they see somebody that has psychopathic tendencies. Hey, he's our boy. Let's get him over here. Let's make him CEO of this company. You know?
You know, but this has been a common failing. I don't believe the entity known as Jesus was real. I believe that's a mismatch of various entities that would all go on.
The same story has occurred 20 times, right?
Yeah. So, but it doesn't really matter if the Jesus story is correct. What did the people do to protect him when he was telling you the truth? Because the messages that come out of that program are all true, whether the entity is real or not. So what did they do? Well, the people stood there and let him get nailed to the cross. Did they stop them? No. They stood there. The same what happened with Radomir. Only the few protected. The same as what happened with Mary Magdalene when the Catholic Church hunted her down and killed her and one of the children. The same happened to Anna in the 1500s. The people actually cheered in the square while she was being burnt alive. And this is what happens to the people of the truth, with the truth. Even John Lennon, who was a CIA agent until he met Yoko Ono, who was another agent, and suddenly, and that's not a coincidence, suddenly he started talking about peace. Well, Langley is not interested in peace because they get bundles of money based on war.
Exactly.
So suddenly Lennon wasn't working for them, and you saw what happened. And no, he wasn't taken out by Chapman. He was taken out by a CIA assassin because he wouldn't follow the program.
And he was too influential.
Gandhi is another one.
What about Michael Jackson?
Even Michael Jackson.
Yep.
But they had stuff on him, and so he was always on a dodgy wicket, we would say, back in the UK.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one press conference with him where he talked about how all of our history is a big, huge lie, and you can't believe it. When you start talking like that and you're that popular in the world, you know, it's no wonder that they just took him out.
Well, suddenly, you know, all these people, these so-called famous people, which is an illusion in and of itself, they're all bought into the program, and most of them have literally sold their souls.
Sure.
Not figuratively, literally, just for fame and pieces of paper with numbers on. You know, and some of them are in the Monarch program. Britney Spears being a prime example. She decided that she'd had enough of being a sex bucket for so-called elites and stepped out. What did they do? They cut off her most prominent feature, which was her hair. And then the media come in, Medea, the goddess of sorcery, comes in and says, this woman's gone nuts. And what do the people do? Follow the narrative.
Mm-hmm. You know? Well, I see the same sort of thing with that Kanye West guy. He was definitely in the club, still is, I'm sure, but he has come out and spoken out and said things he shouldn't have said, so they basically pop him back in the hospital for reprogramming every once in a while.
Anyone, one of the, I know some people like the music, but there's a lot of people who don't, because the media turned on it and says they're all devil worshippers. Some of the biggest deliverers of truth was the early rock bands. Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. We Are Both Travelers in Time and Space. Kashmir.
How about War Pigs? What a great song that was.
War Pigs. Children of the Sea. Children of the Grave. Or Black Sabbath. Heaven and Hell. They'll tell you black is really white. The moon is just the sun at night. It's all there. And so suddenly, most of the people that followed heavy rock when it was born in the UK were people from university. In fact, most of the rockers were university people. They weren't stupid, and then suddenly it was becoming popular. And so next minute, these are all devil worshippers, and you're not getting any record deals, etc., etc. And then they brought in a bastardized version called punk.
Yeah.
Which was an embarrassment, to be quite honest. It was a complete and utter racket, and then it went into death metal, which is even worse. And then, of course, having corrupted that genre, they then went into the black community. They've been brought up on rhythm and blues being the operative word, and Motown, and suddenly you've got this bastardized, horrible version of rap and hip-hop.
Oh, yeah.
That makes black people look really poor, where, everyone's shoot the police, slap that bitch, screw that bitch, and you're the whore, this, that, and the other. I'm sorry, that's not helping that culture. It's just not.
And it helped fill
it's stereotyping.
It helped fill all of those prisons that were privately owned for profit. Yeah. That was a system that they came up with and said, hey, how are we going to make money in these prisons? Well, we'll just program this one group to start killing each other because it's cool, to be a gangster.
Yeah. Well, Nixon did that. There was two movements in America in the 60s. The hippie movement, which is not the first. The first hippie movement was 1860, which is why they drew up the New Age script by Blavatsky in 1880. So you had the hippie movement and the civil rights. And in the released Langley files, it tells you that the Nixon government was going to flood those two groups with drugs to then corrupt them and put them in prison and end those movements. Why? Because suddenly people were getting together. That's the worst thing that can happen for their system, is people coming together. What the cabal do, even more so now, the cabal are crushed. There is none really. It's just a small handful of psychopaths that think they're in control, when in reality they're not. And the only people who put them or keep them in control is we do. Why? Because we haven't stepped up enough in sufficient numbers, because we're too busy competing against each other, dragging each other down, arguing, and being stupid. If the people rise up, the last remnants of these goons are gone. The
Oh, yeah.
illusion will be no more. And it is illusion now. They've got no control. They've got no access to banking or finance. They've got no wealth anymore. It's all an illusion now.
Thomas, I had a question that I've been wondering about because, okay, the trust has backed, all the central banks since who knows how long. But as far as what's to stop these people from just typing into their computer digital money ad nauseum forever and ever?
You can't do that no more. That's why, they used to do that what was called quantitative easing.
Right.
And
But aren't they still doing that?
No, they're telling you they're doing that, but the reality is they're not, because they can't. Because that would then create new money. New money can only come at this moment from one person. It can't be validated. So to create new money, you need new notes. They can't print any, remember.
Mm-hmm.
The Fed's banned from dealing in dollars because they've got no license. They've had no license since 2012. All those 2013 notes were duplicates of the old notes.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Copy numbers. They're not new issue. There is no new issue. The only new money will come from the trust once those clowns realise they have nothing left. And we're not that far away in real terms.
And a couple of people have asked me that what in the world is pushing up the stock market, and it just seems like this just all phony baloney numbers.
It's illusion. You can put it up and take it down whichever way you want it. It's all illusion. It's all harvesting. It's the old program. Just harvest or push it up, get loads of people to put money in it, and then crash it down, and then you buy all the stocks. That's how Rothschild became wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
He did it in the Battle of Waterloo. Told the Brits that they'd lost. Then the stocks all collapsed. They bought them all up, and then goes, oops. The next day, actually, we've won the war, and the stocks went through the roof.
Yep. Same thing with the stock market crash of 29, just a harvesting program.
It's a harvesting program, the whole thing. The Federal Reserve is the harvesting agent because it feeds 148 countries. No country, none of those 148 countries can print their own money. Only the Fed can, at which they charge you 10% on every note. It's a harvesting venture, and if the trust money never comes out in the way we want it, the actual cutting off of the harvesting machine is the biggest thing that's happened on this planet in a long time.
Sure. And I think right now, if we had access to a lot of money, they would find a way to confiscate it or shut it down. I don't think we're at the point yet where we can be successful with that. What do you think?
No, the people are not ready for it. Sad to say, we're just not. We're going to. Most people will be greed, not need, sadly. And part of this decentralization, which is wrapped into the Libra and all the others, and you're seeing loads of companies going bust and they're being bought up, pennies on the dollar, is for the eventuality that the trust funds come out and then we can only buy off them. And so at some stage, they will have all the trust money back. Well, no, the key then is for us to do our own thing and not buy from their companies. We create our own.
Right.
But it has to be done in a cooperative way. We're not here to wipe other business out. We're here to make all businesses thrive by helping each other to thrive, not compete. That's what the old model was, and it failed. Every single business on this planet has failed, apart from fake figures, fake numbers, dodgy accounting, mirror accounts, giving the illusion that the company's got wealth when in reality it's not.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we're coming up against a break once again, Thomas, so we're going to take a short pause right here. And I want to remind everybody, if you've got a question, throw it in the chat or give us a call. We'll be happy to talk to you or answer your question. So we'll be right back in just a little bit. All right, welcome back to Inside the Matrix. Today we're with Thomas Williams, and this is our final segment. And Thomas and I were talking on the break, and I asked him, and I'm going to ask him again, are we making real progress? Where we stand today, Thomas? You know, those of us who want freedom and truth in the world, where do we stand right now?
The highest position humanity's ever had for 110,000 years.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Minimum. You know, the top order's decimated. We're dealing with clowns, bottom end followers. None of them are leaders. They couldn't lead anything. They're not capable of leading anything. Their whole lives is about following. Military people, government people, agency people, they've all been lied to, left, right and centre. Families, bloodline families, they've been lied to. And now they realise what they thought were everything belonged to them actually belongs to the trust, and they've been duped on a massive level by Marduk, and they just gave away all the Earth's assets to an off-world group, and they thought that they owned it. That's what they were told. Like I said, we've all been lied to, and that's why Kim still will speak to these people. Many people would turn around and say, why bother? Because every one of us has been lied to is why. You know, they've been lied to more than we have. And the frequencies coming in for the first time in many, many thousands of years, the GNA coming in, and where we're going and where we're heading is again a massive progress. And I know it's not externally provable, but internally it is. People are noticing a change. The masks are falling. People are exposing themselves now. There's no real need for alt media because people are exposing themselves because it's time. Too many asked for the truth. Now, a lot of people will under the illusion it's only the cabal are going to be tell the truth. No, the truth applies to the all. And this is why I told people back in 2015, you need to be the real version of you, not this mask that we all put up because of low self-esteem or insecurity or covering up who and what we are. People in THI had the chance to correct themselves, because once those masks came down, there's a reason that people had masks, is because it's ugly underneath in too many people, and that's changing now, and that's why we're seeing people exposing each other, and they're exposing themselves, on a massive scale now, and that's what happens. It gets to a viral stage, and it just runs itself. And the key is for us all to do our shadow and inner work and be a better version of yourself. Gain guardianship over the self, and everything else takes care of itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, Thomas, the THI folks out there, they understand about the trust and about Kim and all that, but a lot of my listeners may not be real familiar with that. Could you kind of give us a kind of a general overview of the trust, the history a little bit, and also Kim's role and your role in that?
The trust is thousands and thousands of years old. It was run by two non-human groups in the past for many thousands of years. They lost the right to do that, and humanity was given their chance to look after the treasures of the planet, and not steal from it and be greedy with it and think it all belongs to them, which is what happened with the previous group and the group prior to that. So Kim was working alongside the former trustee, oblivious to who or what that entity was, and learned a lot. And then she really needed to fill in the missing pieces, which two shows that I did, which garnered attention, which was the show with Shane, where we discussed the covens and the parents and the Illuminati and covens and the Draco.
Yeah, I remember that.
In great length. That was a turning point show, that. But suddenly that was revealing the hidden. Not only to the alt media, but to a lot of the families, bloodline families also. And then I followed it up with the faction show, which showed that the Illuminati no longer exists, and they've fractured into these 5 factions: Asian, Jesuit, Zionists, Nazi, and that's what we're seeing now. The alt media is the same. It's fractured into factions. There's certain shows that will tell you an awful lot about the other 4 factions, but they won't tell you about their faction, particularly the Zionist-based ones that are laced throughout the alt media, and the Nazi-based ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you've got the SSP, who are running concurrent to all them, and they've got lots of technology, not as much as they used to have. Some of it kind of sizzled like bacon because there was interfering. It's for humanity itself. It's probably the greatest time ever. And I don't think people recognise the enormity of what's really going on. And there's always these, when's this going to happen? When's the mass arrest? When's the trust funds coming out? And they're not realising or recognising the importance of what's really going on here. It's about protecting life force energy and this species, because we were targeted for extinction. Now, it's one thing winning a battle, but we have to win the war, and the only way we can win the war is through the people, and I mean all people, including the governments, including clowns in the deep state and clowns in Langley and the KGB and Mossad and all the fake religions coming together. Then we can create a real progress and have a future for the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren and onwards. And it starts with us. THI was tasked with being guardians of the trust along with Kim. And people think, how and why is that possible? Well, who else would do it? And that's a lot to comprehend for some people. We were also tasked to, because our listeners have been taught a different way with the think and act different, doing the shadow work and inner work and removing the masks and need, not greed. Some people think they're just cliches. They're not. It's a vision to go forward with, where there is not one leader, but thousands of leaders, non-competing. That's one of the biggest problems of humanity, competitive and comparative mindset. We have to drop it. We have to drop it going forward, because we have to take this final opportunity to not only look after the life force energy, because that's what the trust is. It's got souls, it's got people's life force energy in it. Everyone on the planet. Yes, it will be seen as pieces of paper, which is ridiculous when people really understand the value of life force energy. The idea of transferring it for pieces of paper with numbers on will seem absurd. But sadly, not enough people on the planet have that right frequency to understand that. And I get that, and that's the idea of THI, is to elevate all the people out of the low vibrational astral realm and onto the mental planes where your natural abilities, not magic, kicks in. Your own technology, where you don't need machines. We've never needed machines. You know, the heirs and the Rus didn't need machines to build all those cathedrals all around the world. They'll tell you Romans did it and Greeks and all that nonsense. No, it wasn't. They didn't need giant trucks. They used their own ability, which is inherent in this vessel, to everyone. And that's why I say, if you work on the self, you change the world. Because suddenly your frequency is then influencing people around you. You don't have to go and tell them, come and listen to THI. You must listen to THI. No, your frequency itself will elevate people around you, where they're then, once they reach that frequency, they will tune into the likes of my show and many other shows that are going on. But suddenly they're at the right frequency to hear it.
Mm-hmm. And we're in the, I would say, the battle of all eternity at this point. Like you said, that's a heavy duty thought, that we've never gotten this far before. You know, many times the reset button has been pushed in our world, and we were, as you said, we were slated to have that reset button pushed again in 2012. But enough of us stood up and said, no, we want the truth. We want freedom.
There was no reset in 2012. It was extinction.
Right. Oh, extinction, even worse.
It was extinction.
So now we've been given an opportunity, a massive opportunity. So this is where we indeed have to step up for humanity, step up for ourselves and for our progeny. There's no greater challenge, you know, in our spiritual world, in our spiritual understanding and growth than what we're experiencing right now, and we have to rise up to the occasion.
Yep. You know, we've done let others do things for us, be it off-world groups, be it parents,
blue chickens,
ghost chickens in the sky, you know, Palladians and all this rubbish. You know, the Palladians were the guardians of this planet at one point in time, and they sold us out. So I'm not waiting for no Palladian to come down and save us again, to sell us out again. You know, none of the ET groups have helped us out of the kindness of their heart. It's a usage. They've piggybacked. Why? Because this vessel is more creative than any of them. In fact, in some cases, more than them, 3 or 4 groups combined. And this is what people really have to start understanding, is we save us. The idea, once you understand life and life force energy and what this vessel's all about, the idea of asking for someone else to come and save us is beyond stupid. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely insane.
Yep.
And this
so
is
convenient. So convenient, Thomas. We can have all we have to do is believe in a savior, and then we'll just be stuck forever.
You know, a zombie is coming back
right
from the dead from 2,000 years ago to save you. Really. You know, it's bad thinking. And you know, some of the things that come out of religion will get you locked up in normal everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so many people have followed that program, which was an experiment to take this vessel and this human spirit away from source. That's what it was created for. It was originally it was an experiment.
Well, it worked rather well.
It worked well for the dark.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it's not working well for the dark either. That's their illusion. As they've gone so far dark, they think there should be no life. Why would they,
including theirs, right?
Yeah, well, why would they want to eliminate themselves?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
And this is how corrupted it's become. Everything's out of balance, and it's not about matriarchal or patriarchal. We've been in the matriarchal. The illusion is it's patriarchal, and I don't care who doesn't like that. 9 of the last 10 parents were females. They were far more dark than some of the worst males on this planet, because it goes out of balance. We don't need a matriarchal or a patriarchal. We need a combined balance, which is what we were to begin with. We were both male and female at one point. We didn't have 2 hemispheres of the brain. That was another reduction program. And the key to gaining guardianship, not mastery, over the self is combining those 2 hemispheres, not fight between them. It's another thing. Not only are people fighting with each other, they're fighting in their own head. And people are all laugh at this now, but you've all done it where you go, oh, I'd love to do this. And then the other part of the brain goes, oh, you old bastards, you're too old, you can't do this and you can't do that. You're fighting in your own head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the observer comes in and goes, hang on a minute. It's not impossible. It's I'm possible.
Yes. Thomas, we've got another question here.
Yeah.
BA says, the Roost teachers that are here, will they be willing to teach the humans that want to learn their teachings? So first of all, are they still here? And would they be willing to teach?
Yes, they are. And yes, they are. Here's my answer.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Are we able to expound any more on that?
They are teaching in many avenues around the world. Some of them are more obvious and some of them are not. That's as far as I can go.
Okay. Well, good question, BA. Appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, it's a fascinating subject.
It's clearly working, because clearly so many people are now deciding to go a different path. They've had enough of the illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And many people are now changing path. What they've got to avoid is the snake oil salesman with side streets selling more illusion, like blue chickens.
Yeah. There seems to be an endless supply of new distractions, right?
Yeah, and RV programs and even the trust till it comes out. It's still a program that is not yet delivered, but I think people understand why, because the minute that first dollar comes out, for them it's game over altogether. And then we can really start to kick people into gear, into operating in a better way. And I'm still seeing evidence, even within the THI groups, of dick swinging, as we call it.
Ego.
The ego kicking in. My idea is better than your idea, which is competitive and comparative mindset. That's their way. It's not our way. That's their way. and greed. A chance to fill their own pockets rather than, well, I've got enough. Somebody else probably needs that more than I do. If you've got the 5 basics in life, you're living like a king. But it's all about perspective, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of Americans and Europeans are struggling, but they're not struggling in comparison to the Africans or the Indian people or large parts of China. Pakistan, another one. Or the Iraqi people. They've had the whole infrastructure bombed into oblivion by cowards in planes from 30,000 feet.
Yep. We've got to get way beyond that whole mentality. And now we're really seeing it for what it is. It's a distraction. It's a dead end. It's a system of a very few self-serving entities. And the game has always been the same. They never change it. There's variations on it. But I mean, the intent, the outcome is always the same until we decide we don't want this anymore. I think every human being out there wants a better world, a peaceful world, a cooperative world, a world with love in it and not the hatred, war, and all the crap that we're seeing for ages.
Yeah, well, the key is the police, the military, the agencies, the mercenaries, and the religious leaders to quit playing the old system game. It failed on every single level. Why? It was designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to work going forward, and you're propping up a failed system. It's the same people in the banking and the Federal Reserve, in the UN, in the IMF, the World Bank. Failed, all of them. They're all gone. They're all bankrupt. They all owe the trust trillions of dollars. If we call them the liens, they're bust anyway. We're asking you, or we're reaching out a hand to you, come and work with us, where we all prosper. Not just you, all of us. Not just Americans, and not just Europeans, and not just Chinese. Everyone. Because we're returning the life force energy that's been stolen over thousands of years from humanity back to all the people.
I like it. That's where we're coming from. Thomas, once again, this show just seems to fly by all the time, and we're so happy that you're able to join us once a month to give us these updates and insights. That's going to wrap it up for our show today, Inside the Matrix. Thomas, how can we find you very quickly?
On Spreaker, Tommy Williams channel, YouTube, Tommy Williams channel, and Truth, Honor, and Integrity on the Facebook, and MeWe.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate you for listening in, and we'll see you next week on Inside the Matrix.
This is Inside the Matrix, hosted by Jimi Brent.
Who are we talking about?
Jimi Brent. Jimi Brent. Jimi Brent. Live every Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
It is worldwide.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep within the neon capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. For more information on the host and the show, please visit InsideTheMatrix.org. That's InsideTheMatrix.org. It's time to break the chains of manipulated consciousness and claim our true nature as creative divine beings. Inside the Matrix. Inside the Matrix.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.